Personal finance expert and MeVest founder Lesley-Anne Scorgi joins us on Canada Now. And Lesley-Anne, your latest article in the Star discusses how Schitts Creek showed us how to fix our finances.
Isn't that just such a funny show? But it has some amazing financial lessons. And, you know, one of them is that the characters at the beginning of the whole series are really not the same characters at the end. They change and become better people, better business managers. They're way better with money by the end. And, you know, when we look at what Schitts Creek really taught us, it's that change is probably, in this department, pretty good. It can result in much better outcomes.
Absolutely. Embrace who you become. That's something you talk about in the piece. And, you know, as Johnny Rose learned, first off, you got to make sure that you file your taxes.
Oh my gosh, right? So there's a myth out there that filing your taxes is really scary. But in the show, he left it up to his like dubious business manager to take care of this important part of his life. Didn't really check in. And then of course, you know, they kind of got taken to the cleaners. So that is unusual. However, the whole premise is like, there's nothing to be scared of. Do file your taxes and don't shut your eyes completely. You should be very clear about who you have doing that work for you because like, what if it turns out that you have a dubious tax person on your team? That's not good either.
Yeah, absolutely. And an emergency fund, we talk about it often, have an emergency fund. I mean, just ask the Rose family.
Right. So this is so funny. They really, you know, they really had all their assets cleaned out. And what I thought was kind of cool is the son in the series ends up getting a job and starting to see the power of savings, like just small time savings. And he taught us that anybody can really get started getting a job and starting to save. But for him, that whole element of savings allowed him to actually empower himself to have his own money. And I love that because it's so true today, right? Fewer emergencies happen to people who have emergency funds. And that's what we want for you. We want you to take some of that paycheck and put it off to the side.
Yeah, well, you know, and David couldn't do that until he put aside the shame and forgave himself, forgave the family's situation because it was what it was. And, you know, David and the Roses, they had to get there. They had to learn that.
Totally. I don't know if you remember from the series, but they would often like run into people from the past and just like it was terrifying for them. That obviously comic relief. But the whole idea here is that if you made mistakes in the past, you do need to get over them in order to move along. And shame needs to be parked off to the side and out of the way when it comes to financial planning so that you can clear a path forward. So literally, if you've done something or something hasn't gone wrong or you feel silly about a choice that you've made, you do need to move it out of your purview so you can move forward.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And not think about what everybody else has and just focus on what you have and building your own wealth in this case. And then that might come with the help of a financial pro. And hopefully the Roses would do better than what they had while they were in Schitts Creek.
That's right. So, you know, I think what's really key here is that even the Rose family, the Roses, like they went out and they got a financial advisor at some point. And it was helpful for them. And you can too, right? In your journey, don't DIY this process. You should be hiring professionals who live and breathe this stuff. They do financial planning. They work on investing. They have their pulse on the market. They also, you know, if they're very measured people, should be able to give you measured and good quality advice. So don't do this alone. You know, there's so many people out there to help you.
Family and friends included. You know, money is often a taboo topic, but it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't, and you know, it tends to have a stigma around it, like debt and maybe being bad with money. But, you know, the good news is that when you talk to people in your network that are close to you about maybe some money struggle, you're going to get some support. And we actually know from a money psychology standpoint that getting support and being involved with a community as you're going through financial transition is one of the major factors you see people rise up and move forward with their finances. So, talk to your family, talk to people who will listen to you and who care. Maybe you're not taking their advice, right? Because they're not the qualified professionals we talked
Right.
about, but maybe they're the ones that just they're your cheer squad. And they say, move forward, you got this.
And it gives you the ability to kind of talk things out and maybe just be sounding boards, and you can flush out, everything that you have rattling around in there, and give you more of a clearer thought moving on. And, there's another article in the Star, Lesley-Anne, that you wrote that looked at how to stop living paycheck to paycheck for good. And you outlined a 5-step process. And first, it's master budgeting, and anyone can do that.
That's right. You do not need anybody to get started, but you probably do need a template. By the way, there's tons of them for free out there. Like, we have them at mavest.ca. Google has them. Probably your bank has a free budgeting template. But what you're going to want to do is track your spending, track what's coming in the door, because if you don't track it, you're going to lose it, / you're going to spend it. And so when we look at paycheck to paycheck situations, the first thing to do is 30 days of tracking of every itsy bitsy detail about the way that you're spending it, like from Amazon to your car insurance. All of this is going to blow the doors off and bring awareness of where your money is going. That is a pivotal moment. It's like in any transformation, or if if you're having one of those moments where you're like, I need to change, it all starts with awareness. And this is one of the key tools that we have to bring that forward.
Yeah, and it might highlight some impulse spending that you're making, which you've got to trim back and curb, as you've highlighted in your piece. And one way of doing that maybe is to start using cash only until at least you are debt free, and pay off your monthly credit card bill.
I'm often recommending this to my students, just saying, like, go to a cash system, go to a debit system, and this is going to help you curb that spending. But the other thing that will really help you curb any impulse is get away from the cart for 24 hours. So we all know we're doing tons of digital shopping right now amidst the pandemic. Hopefully we'll be back in stores in not too distant future. But literally give yourself 24 hours, walk away from the cart. And the way that you feel about that impulse purchase will likely have shifted in just that 24 hours. So just a bit of breathing room, that can buy you avoidance.
Yeah.
Something that you don't need.
It does work, because the other day I was looking at t-shirts, baseball t-shirts of some of my favorite teams. Oh, I'm gonna get that. Oh, that one looks cool. I'm gonna get that one. And they weren't that expensive. They were like $9.99. It's not as if I was spending like $30 on each t-shirt, but I did put it together and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk away and think about it. When I came back to it, maybe a day later, I came back to it and said, I got a drawer full of t-shirts. What am I getting these for? They look cool, but I don't need them.
Totally. That's what happens is you go back with maybe that sober second thought, hence they use that terminology. It is sobering, where you're clear and you actually get to ask yourself, like, is this purchase going to help me or hurt me? And let me be clear for a second. If you do like 10 very small purchases of $4 to $10, that can easily add up to $100 in the course of a day. And so, like, we're not talking about small numbers. Paycheck to paycheck is everything, big to small, changing the way that you're viewing things, and really just say no to things that you don't need at the present moment, so you can break that cycle.
Yeah, and with that budget that you've put together, you have to budget for your base income, as you've highlighted in your piece in the Star. Don't bank on any potential lump sum earnings.
Like, haven't you done that in the past, where you thought you were going to get money and then maybe the contract turned out to be half as valuable as what you had planned for? We never recommend that you put in to your budget the hopefulness, as hopeful as we encourage you to be, the hopefulness around a number. We want the certainty around the number to go into the fund. Now, if you are on the fortunate side of having excess lump sum money, there's plenty you can do with that. My goodness, you could pay off some debt. You can even build up your emergency fund, which is one of the important steps of breaking that paycheck to paycheck cycle, is starting to save. So if you just do your budgeting on base, anything excess you save within, I'd say 90 days, you're going to start feeling that that you're not so much paycheck to paycheck anymore.
That's right.
This.
Yeah, and if you don't stop that cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, it'll lead to increasing levels of debt. It'll get worse.
It absolutely will. So actually this cycle, it gets worse, but in an exponential factor. Like it gets worse faster if you don't break the cycle, because the debt, the interest accumulates, and it's kind of like a tornado, or like a tornado that just kind of picks up speed. So, celebrate your wins along the way as you're getting out of this cycle, but really do commit to getting out of this cycle and building up that savings. You don't want to be caught in that vortex.
Absolutely. Check out mevest.ca, personal finance expert, Mevest founder, Hammering Hank's mom, Lesley-Anne Scorgi. Lesley-Anne, always a pleasure. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Jeff.